Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jessica McDonald. I'm a knitting pattern designer and I'm coming to you from a tiny town in the mountains of Idaho. Today is Wednesday, January 3rd. Happy New Year, everyone! And I am here with another regular podcast episode for you. I'm going to tell you about little kitty cats that I almost didn't get done in time for Christmas. Before we begin talking about kitties, let me tell you what I'm wearing. I am wearing my silver birch pattern. This is a boxy all over cable and texture pullover. It is in my forest book and the pattern is also available individually. I'll put links to the pattern down below in case you like it. It's knit from the bottom up. It has no shaping in the shoulders, so you don't have to worry about short rows or anything fussy because I just wanted it to be really simple and easy. And it has this lovely double collar, this folded over collar. The sleeves are plain stockinette with a fold over cuff, and yeah, it's knit in Borah Natura Ulysse, which is a sport weight yarn, and I'll put links to the pattern in the description box below. Now let me tell you about my children's kitty cats. Here they all are, all four of them together. So a year ago, it was pretty much exactly a year ago, I decided that I was going to knit my children's Sleepy Kittens for Christmas. This last Christmas, that was literally a week and a half ago. And I had bought the yarn and the pattern and I was all ready to go. And I was going to knit them like one kitty every 3 months. And then I sat down to knit the pattern and it called for, I think it's Judy's Magic Cast On. It's one of those cast-ons that you use for a pair of toe-up socks, and I just couldn't get it. And so these little kitty cats did not get done in time. Finally, the very last minute, I was determined, in November finally, I was determined that I was going to have them ready for this Christmas. And so I decided I was going to try to figure out the cast-on and get them done real quick because I really wanted my kids to have these kitty cats for Christmas. And I was watching another podcast. I couldn't get the Judy's Magic Cast On. Like, I could not get it. Every time I did it, there would be a ridge of purl bumps right in the middle of the cast on. So there wasn't like, see how it's a smooth, very smooth edge? I couldn't get that with the Judy's Magic Cast On, no matter how hard I tried. I don't know what I was doing wrong. I just couldn't manage it. And then I was watching another podcast. I can't remember what it was. I want to say it is a Sarah. She's a Dutch lady. I don't remember the name of her podcast, but I watch basically every episode. Anyway, she was talking about the Turkish cast on, and she used the Turkish cast on for a pair of toe-up socks. And so I looked up the Turkish cast on, and it was like magic for me. All of a sudden, I was able to do this cast on, this like bottom of the thing cast on that lets you have this perfectly smooth edge. And so I was able to cast on for all of the, because you use that cast on the legs and on the arms and on the tail, so you use it in quite a few places. So the Turkish cast on was just what I needed, and I started cranking these babies out. It was not very much fun to knit these on a very steep deadline, and I almost didn't get them done. It took me quite a while to knit them. If this had been a sweater, this wasn't even 2 full skeins of yarn, all of this together. If this had been a sweater, I could have done it in an afternoon, but since it's all a bunch of little pieces, like you've got to knit the legs, and you got to knit the body and all of the things, and it's kind of fussy, it takes longer, so it took me probably 4 to 6 hours of knitting per kitty. I think I was kind of slow because it does use double pointed needles and that's not my preference, so I think I was slower because of that. But it took me a while to knit each and every kitty, so I almost didn't get them done in time for Christmas. In the end, it was 2 days before Christmas and my husband was wrapping all of the presents, which was really nice. But I was just sitting there with him just cranking out kitties. I had 2 kitties to finish. I just needed to knit their heads and then they were done. The rest of them was done. So these were the 2 that were at the last minute. I just needed to finish their heads, and so I sat there and knit kitty heads and he wrapped all of the Christmas presents. And then after I did the heads, I embroidered on their faces. And then since they are pretty much the same, so there's two different yarn colors here. I don't remember the names of the yarn colors. There's two different yarn colors here, but that's not enough to tell all of the kitties apart. So to tell them all apart, I just embroidered each child's first initial onto the kitty's bum. So this is T for Talia. So everybody has an initial on the kitty's behind, and then it's really easy for them to tell them apart. Not all of the letters look that nice. So here's a B. You can see it didn't turn out super nice. The J also didn't turn out super nice. It's enough that you can tell whose is whose, but it definitely does look homemade and home done. The A was a lot easier again. Those straight lines make it a lot easier. And then for the, wait, hang on, I haven't told you what yarn I used yet, have I? So all four of these kitties use Barrett Wool Co. Wisconsin Woolen Spun. I'm pretty sure that's the yarn called for in the pattern, but I'm not 100% sure. It is a worsted weight woolen spun yarn from Barrett Wool Co. I'll put a link to it in the description box below. This is one of my favorite yarns. I decided to use this yarn because I have 4 or 5 sweaters in the house that are knit out of this yarn, and they wear so nicely. It doesn't pill, it's not weak, it doesn't break, it doesn't end up stretching out and looking ratty. It's just a really nice yarn, and it wears really, really well. So I wanted to use a yarn that was gonna last for a really long time and put up with a lot of really heavy play. Hopefully they play with them. So I use this yarn. I use 2 different colors. I cannot remember the color names. These are 2 different shades of gray here. The boys have dark gray, the girls have light gray. And then once they were done, I couldn't find my embroidery floss, which must have grown some legs and walked away. So I used some scrap yarn to embroider on the faces. So the eyes and the nose are Durara Natura Ulisse, and then the mouth, the little black mouth down here, that is another piece of Barrett Wool Co. Wisconsin Woolen Spun that's left over from, I think, my Ruska sweater. But the eyes and the nose, that is left over from the Flora dress that I released back in May. So some of them have blue eyes, most of them have blue eyes. Most of them have little blue eyes on their little face. Here's the girls' faces. I'm just showing you all of their faces. And then one has green eyes. So 3 of my children have blue eyes, 1 of my children has green eyes. So each child's kitty has the same eye color that matches their own eye color, which I thought was fun. And I think they enjoyed it too. I originally was gonna knit them all little sweaters, but I ended up not having time for that. I think that I will do so at some point in the future. Maybe for next Christmas I'll knit them a little sweater or make them a little outfit. That would be super fun. That would be super duper fun. One modification I made is the paws. The pattern has a paw at the end of the leg, so a foot. I really hated knitting the foot. Like, really did not like knitting the foot. And so I decided to just do no foot at all. And so I just found out how many stitches the leg took, and I cast on that number of stitches, and I just worked the leg till it was 6 inches long, which turned out to be a good size for my kitty cats. But I just really didn't like the foot, so that was the only modification I made from the pattern. I did change a few things in the process, like the ears you're supposed to do on double pointed needles. This whole thing uses double pointed needles, and I used size 8 needles. I did not gauge swatch or anything. My only set of double pointed needles, like the full set of double pointed needles, is a size 8 set. So I just used my size 8 set, and they came out whatever size. This isn't a sweater. It didn't need to be a certain size, so I just used my size 8 needles and didn't worry about gauge. So all of it is worked on double pointed needles, but I couldn't get the ears to work on double pointed needles. You start with so few stitches that I just couldn't manage it. Double pointed needles are not my thing at all, so it was really difficult for me to do the ears on double pointed needles, so I just did them magic loop style, and it was much easier for me, and it took like 2 minutes to make an ear on a circular needle magic loop style. Another thing I changed is when you attach, so you knit the legs and the tail and the arms, and then you attach them to the body as you knit the body. So when you come to attaching an appendage, you're knitting 3 layers of stitches together at the same time. And I found that to be kind of hard to do because my yarn kept slipping off of my working needle. So I just used a crochet hook, put it through the 3 stitches, grab my working yarn, pull it through. And then once I had the leg or arm attached, I just transferred those stitches back onto my double pointed needle and carried on. It was just much easier to attach all of the appendages with a crochet hook instead of using knitting needles. The insides are stuffed with wool as well, so I got a bag. I can't remember how much it was, if it was a pound or an ounce. It has to be more than an ounce. A pound, I think. The smallest quantity that they sell of wool stuffing from Mountain Meadow Wool. So they have wool stuffing inside of their body and their head. I didn't put any stuffing in the arms, legs, or tail. The pattern didn't tell you to, and I don't think you're supposed to, but when I looked at some of the pictures, online, the appendages looked rounder on the pictures of some other people's kitty cats, whereas mine are pretty flat. They're pretty flat. But some other people's, they looked rounder. So I wonder if perhaps other people stuffed them with a little bit of stuffing, and I should have stuffed them as well, but I did not stuff them at all. So I'm assuming that they weren't supposed to be stuffed. But they're very cute, and they were very well received on Christmas morning. So I'm very glad that I did end up getting them done in the end. But I did not enjoy knitting them on such a tight deadline, and it was very stressful, and I don't think I'll be doing that again. But I'm glad that I made them. And hopefully they will last for a very, very, very long time, and someday they can tell their kids, oh, these are the stuffed kitties Mom made me for Christmas. I hope so anyway. It was a lot of work, so I hope they last for a really long time. So there's my Sleepy Kittens set. The pattern is by Susan B. Anderson. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but I'll put a link to it in the description box below. The pattern also includes, I think it includes instructions for a little nightgown you could knit for them, and then also for a little sleeping bag you can knit for them, which I didn't make. I just made the kitty cat. So there's the Sleepy Kittens. 4 Sleepy Kittens that I had to get back from my children today so that I could talk about them. They want their kitties back. They made sure I knew that. And now I'll show you my current WIP. You may remember this from a very, 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 very long time ago. But I am knitting my husband a sweater. And here it is, back on the needles again. I'm gonna lose my ball of yarn. So this sweater has been in timeout since spring. I don't know exactly when, late spring, early summer. It's been in timeout for at least half a year. When I was writing up the pattern and doing the grading, either the size chart lied to me or my gauge swatch lied to me. And according to the size and chart and gauge combination, it looked like I was going to have to stop increasing for the sleeve before I was done increasing for the body. I didn't want to make an enormous, huge baggy sleeve. So I was trying to be careful and mindful of the increases. And so as you work through the sweater, you would stop the sleeve increases, but still continue the body increases. And then after I knit and I got down below the sleeve separation and I knit about half a sleeve, I had my husband try it on and the sleeve was just way, way, way too tight. It fit on him. If it was a sweater for me, I would be happy with the way that the sleeve fit on me, but he did not like it at all. And so I needed to rip back the whole half of a sleeve that I knit, and I needed to rip back in the yoke until I reached the point where the sleeve increases had stopped. And that was about a third of the yoke depth-wise. So when you're looking at, area of knitting or number of stitches. It was quite a bit because it was at the bottom of the yoke. So I needed to rip out a fair bit of the yoke, and I just was so disappointed and upset that I could not bring myself to do it for quite a while, because it takes quite a bit of time to knit an all-over cabled sweater, especially this size. I'm making the 50-inch size because it's for my husband, who's quite a lot bigger than me. So it's a huge sweater for me, much larger than I normally make. And so I was just really depressed at having to rip back so much of my work and needing to re-knit it all. And so it sat on a table in this room for at least 6 months, and I was just really didn't want to do it. I just really didn't want to do it. And so finally, now I decided that it's time. I finished all of my crazy deadline projects. I have, like, the kitties are done. I have nothing that really needs to get done. I have no collaborations that are breathing down my neck. So I decided it was time to get to work on my husband's sweater again. So this last weekend I sat down and it took me a few hours, I spent a few hours ripping back everything that needed to be ripped back and putting it back on the needles, figuring out exactly where in the cable pattern I was so that I wasn't starting at the wrong spot. And I have started moving forward again. I am 11 rows from the bottom of the yoke. So I ripped back to, I should have left a stitch marker. I ripped back to about here, right about here. So I've knit quite a bit just in the last couple of days. And I'm 11 rows from the bottom of the yoke. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the yoke, separate for sleeves, have my husband try it on, see if there's enough room in the sleeve opening. Then I'm gonna knit like 4 or 5 inches of a sleeve and have him try it on again and see how that fits. Then once I've got it set so that it fits him nice in the sleeve as well as the body, then I will probably send it to a grader because I am kind of tired of messing with it, and finish off the pattern, and then hopefully open the test knit for this sweater in enough time that you have many, many months to test knit this one, because this is not a quick knit by any means. It is worsted weight yarn, but it is all over cables and all over texture. And you may not knit it for your husband. You could knit it a smaller version, or I think the smallest size is like a 33-inch chest. So you could knit much smaller than this one, but if you wanted to knit your husband a sweater in the test knit, I want to make sure it's long enough that it's not a really stressful ordeal for you, because I know how little fun knitting is when you're doing it at a really, really steep deadline, and it's just no fun. So this is my husband's sweater. Its name is Borah. It's named after the tallest peak in Idaho. It has a lovely neckline that I have already done. I did this ages ago. So this is a top-down raglan construction sweater. So you start knitting flat, and then you increase for the neckline, then you join it in the round, and then after you've knit the yoke or the whole thing, you pick up stitches around the neckline for this folded, nice and squishy folded neckline. I picked up stitches and did the neckline as soon as I had the yoke done the first time around, because I wanted to make sure the neckline fit really well before I knit the whole sweater. So that's why my neckline is already done. So this is what I'm knitting on right now. It's beautiful. My husband has offered many, many times that I can knit this for myself instead of for him, because I keep talking about how much I love it. It's such a pretty sweater. It's a perfect classic sweater, but I'm knitting it for him. He's very definitely a knit-worthy person, and he deserves a sweater, so I'm knitting him this sweater. Although I may have to come up with something very similar for myself, because I really love this. The size chart that I'm grading it towards is a men's size chart, so it will be a men's pattern, but honestly, you will be able to knit it for yourself if you're a woman. You'll just have a little more room in the sleeve, and the yoke is probably going to be a little bit deeper. Those are really the only differences, because men generally have larger shoulders and arms than women do, so a men's sweater just has more space in the shoulders and the arms. So if you're fine with having a little more space in your shoulders and your arms, then knit a men's pattern. So there it is, Borah. This is what I'm working on. Hopefully next time I show it to you, I will be to the point where I can start finalizing all of the sizing and the pattern and getting the test knit started, because I'm nearly done with the yoke again. It's beautiful. I'm using Quince Co Lark in the color Woolen. I think it's pronounced Woolen. I never know how to pronounce that color name. It's the Audouin is the spelling of it. I bought this yarn like 4 years ago to make him a sweater. And yeah, this project has been a very, very long time in the works. A very long time in the works. So it's about time that I finish it up and get it done for him so that he can have his sweater. So that is what I'm working on, and I do have another sweater on the needles, but I'm not quite ready to show it to you. I am kind of wondering if I want to rip it out or if I want to keep going. So we'll see where that one ends up, and I will show it to you another time. But this is what I'm working on. Mostly I'm just working on this one because I really want to get it to the point where I know if the pattern is going to work or not. So that's what I'm working on, and now I am going to go and work on training Tolly, our livestock guardian puppy. He needs some attention. He hasn't gotten any yet all day, so I'm going to go give him some attention, and I hope you guys have had a lovely time chatting knitting with me for a while. If you like my videos, please like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you see more content like this. The algorithm puts this video out in front of more people. If you are not signed up for my email newsletter, please do so. There's a link in the description box. There's a link in the description box below this video. I'm gonna go outside on this very, very dreary day, and I hope you guys are having a lovely day. Bye.